Hi. So recently I've talked to several teachers at a couple different universities and mentioned that I really love teaching online, and I think they're not having quite the same experience. So I thought I would put together some tips and perhaps it'll be helpful. So I teach at the English Language Institute at KAU, which is in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. But I think these tips are really useful for almost any subject and any age from 16 up. So, why do I love teaching online? Well, basically, here are the reasons. As you can see here, for me especially, it's comfortable and it's convenient. I'm lucky I don't have any distractions at home. That are problematic. So I'm very fortunate to have a good situation and good Wi-Fi, good devices, all of that. So it's kind of easy. Also, it's easy to build rapport and community online. And this is something was kind of a surprise, but it's been really special, I think. I've had excellent rapport with my students and I've been able to do some really fun things and still stay with the curriculum too. Also, I can use apps like Flipgrid, which kind of forces students to speak and it forces them to be thoughtful before they speak. So I'm really enjoying Flipgrid. It's also useful for building community. So I'll give you more details about that in a minute. I find it easier to help the students develop their writing skills too when I'm teaching online. So I'll show you some details about that as well, but I'm really enjoying that. And breakout groups, of course, you can do that. And similar to having groups face to face, there are some advantages online. You can hold them more accountable, I think, in some ways, because you can have them take screenshots of what they're doing. And also, I find that, where I am, the video at the university isn't always clear when we show video or photos on the big screen. But now I can push a video or a picture right to the student's own device, and I know that they're getting really good quality that way. So I'm enjoying that a lot too. And luckily where I am, we have daily assignments. And if you're not doing this, I recommend it. It works really well. So every day the students have one assignment that they have to do, which they do during class, at the end of class. And it's worth 1 point. And I really exploit that, and it I think allows me to get more accountability from my students than I had in face to face. So I really like it for that reason. Now, in the rest of this video, I'm going to focus on a few points. Basically, some pointers on comfort and convenience. And I know some people are really struggling with distractions in their home or whatever. It's not as easy for everyone, but I do have some tips that'll work for everyone. Okay, some things I've learned, and how to build rapport and community online. Some tips that I've found about breakout groups, just a few things, and a few things about Flipgrid and writing skills. And I'll show you examples of all of these. Okay, so comfort and convenience. So like I said, I know I have a pretty good setup where I am, and not everybody does, but there are things you can do to maximize your comfort, and that's going to maximize your ability to do a good job teaching. So one thing you need to do is make sure that the screen is at the proper height, because if your screen is down low, and you're always looking down like this and your head is down, you're going to end up scrunching up your shoulders, reducing the blood flow to your brain, and you're going to be uncomfortable and, nothing's going to go well. You're going to be in pain. So you have to keep your screen up higher. And I use a portable stand. I also use boxes and books and whatever I have to use to lift my laptop up high enough. So you want it to be at about eye level or just a tiny bit below, but not too much. And ophthalmologists also say to follow the 20-20-20 rule. So that's for eye strain, and that's not more than 20 minutes looking at a screen, computer, phone, whatever, and then look away um, out into the distance, at least 20 feet, which is 6 or 7 meters. So 20 minutes looking at a screen, look away 20 feet or more for 20 seconds, and that'll help reduce eye strain. And that's really all you need to worry about. You can also make sure that your screen is not too close to your face. If you set it a little bit further away, that'll be better. And if you have to enlarge the text or whatever, you can just do that. And then the other thing is with your posture is your arms. So my desk, for example, is a little bit tall for me. So if I put my arm on my desk, it gets up a little bit high, and then that scrunches my shoulder. So sometimes I'll put my keyboard on my lap. So do whatever you need to do so that your shoulders, your arms are at a good level. And when you type, your arms are approximately at a right angle, if possible. So that'll really help keep your shoulders nice and loose and comfortable, and your back, and everything's going to be better. And the other thing I do, and this is probably the most important tip, is that I sit on a ball. Originally, when I started teaching online, I was sitting on a nice office chair and I had a lot of back pain. Then I started sitting on what I call a yoga ball, and it's just a big rubber ball. You can buy them at any place that sells, regular gym type stuff. And my back pain immediately went away. And now I always sit on this big rubber ball. And I think the reason why it works is because you're constantly moving just a little bit, just like little micro movements. You're just kind of adjusting on the ball all the time. It's not so much it makes you tired or anything, but it's this continuous movement, and it keeps my spine in good shape, and I don't have any back pain. So I really recommend you buy a ball, buy the right size for your weight. I have a medium size, my husband has a large, and then blow it up to the right size also, so that when you sit on the ball, your legs are forming the right angle. You don't want your knees pointing up. You don't want your knees pointing down, just straight across. And then the other thing is tell your students, because they have the same issues. They've got their laptops too low and they're all bent over, and they're sitting, in uncomfortable ways and with their arms all up, and, so help them out too by telling them. I'll see if I can show you my yoga ball without losing my background here. Let me see. There we go. Okay, let's look at the next thing, rapport and community. I think we all know that developing rapport with your students is very important, right? Because if you have a good rapport with your students, then they're going to want to work for you. So they'll go that extra mile for you because they don't want to disappoint you. So it's really important to have good rapport. And of course, you're going to enjoy it more too. So it's a win-win. So how do I develop rapport with my students online? Here at KAU, the students are not allowed to put their video on. So I'm just talking to my screen, literally. And of course, they can have their microphone on, but I've got a fairly large class, and you can really only have one mic at a time. So But there are lots of ways that I do it, and I will give you examples and show you exactly what I do. So one of the little things is getting them oriented to the class itself. We use Blackboard here, but regardless of what LMS or what platform you're using, it's important that the students know what is available in your online class and how you teach the class, what you expect, how you do things. So getting the students oriented helps them feel really comfortable. And there are a number of ways I do that, which I'll show you, because I don't want them to feel like they are, confused about where to find information or how things are going, or how I take attendance or anything like that. Okay, yeah, I forgot to mention taking attendance earlier. So I also take attendance 3 times during our class, since we have a long 3 to 4 hour class. And the nice thing about being online is they don't really know when I'm going to take attendance. We had, different ways of taking it when we were face to face, but now I take it somewhere near the beginning, somewhere in the middle, and somewhere at the end. And since they don't know exactly when I'm going to do it, they have to kind of stay awake and pay attention so that they catch that, because there are consequences for them if they don't attend. And the other thing is with Blackboard, which is our LMS, I use the poll, and I find that to be much better than using the chat. Using the poll forces them to respond. So I know that they're not only logged in, but they're actually listening and paying attention. And the poll shows up in the attendees tab, and then it's alphabetical. So it's very easy for me to just transfer that to my regular attendance record. So I also want them to learn about each other. Don't want them to feel like they're boats adrift on a lake, And I have to, especially online, I have to be the one to facilitate that. So there are a number of things that I do, and I'll show you examples of what I'm talking about. One thing I've noticed is that, especially now, there is a fair number of students who are struggling with depression. And so, it's pretty difficult, challenging times now because we're in the middle of a pandemic. But so I have found that I like starting the class with a smile. So this is one thing I do, and the students really appreciate it, and they tell me so. So I literally turn my camera on. Usually my camera is off, but I turn it on generally near the beginning of class, sometimes also at the end, or if there's something important I want to tell them. And I give a big smile. And I tell them about research that I know about, where 2 scientists were studying facial expressions, just the muscles in the face that are used, not the emotion at all. And so they would spend all day making certain expressions and recording which of the muscles were used. And they discovered that when they went home at night, on days when they'd been making frowny faces, they felt really bad at home. And on days when they've been making happy, smiling faces and other kinds of nice faces, they felt really good when they went home. And so it suggested to them that simply making like a fake smile is enough to, I guess, trick your brain into thinking you're happy. So you'll actually fake it till you make it, Just the act of smiling, even when you don't feel like smiling, will make you feel better. So I tell my students about this, and it does seem to help. And they tell me that, and we all feel good because we're all smiling. So I start my day with that. And I also start it with a whiteboard where I have them, sort of, they can vent a little bit and what have you. Sometimes they come into class and I'm sharing a compilation video of babies laughing, or other kinds of group, nice, friendly group laughter things. And it makes us laugh, makes us want to laugh. So I spent a few minutes doing this, and the time spent is well worth it, because it just brings the vibe up for the whole class, and it can last like the whole 4 hours. It's kind of amazing. So, and then, like I said, I like to begin with positivity. So I also use the whiteboard at the beginning of class, and I'm a big fan of the whiteboard in Blackboard LMS. But if you're not using Blackboard, you can do the same thing with Google Slides, for example, because the point is it's anonymous. So I make sure I tell them repeatedly that it's anonymous. I tell them that when they answer a poll, I alone can see what the answers are. But I know who said what. But when they write something on the whiteboard, I have no way of knowing who wrote it. And this really encourages them to participate because it's risk-free. So this has worked in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways is community building. So I'll show you some examples of what I do. Back to orientation. Here's an example of a scavenger hunt that I do at the beginning of class. And it asks questions about where they can find various types of information. So, where can they find a picture of the textbook? Where can they find deadlines? Where can they find how I do attendance, or how to contact me? For example, I require them only to contact me by course messages or by my office hour, of course. So I show them how to use course messages. I like that because all of my communication with my students I can find in one simple place. But whatever you're doing, all the things, the way you conduct the class and the way the class is set up, they need to be oriented. And so I use this Google form, which I make into a quiz as a scavenger hunt, and I give them time and make it one of their daily assignments so they get a point. And it helps orient them to the class. I want them to be oriented to the tools in the LMS. So this is a little image here that orients them to the tools they can find for the whiteboard, which are the same tools if I share a PDF in the breakout group. And whatever you're using, I'd recommend that you make sure they know how to use all the tools. On the whiteboard, for example, they don't want to use the eraser because it erases everything. When they want to erase just one thing, they would use the arrow key and then the delete key on their own keyboard. So things like that are important to know. See, I also make a class folder, and I put that link to that right on the homepage for the course. And I call it Laura's class folder or something like that. And that's where I tell them how I conduct the class and attendance and contacting me and things like that. So now, that's how I get them oriented to the class. And that's all stuff about rapport, but how do I develop community? So, of course, rapport helps, but they don't know anything about each other at that point. So I use Google Form again. And again, it's a daily assignment, and I've got all sorts of categories on there. What kinds of hobbies are you interested in? My students are science students, so I ask them specifically what areas of science interest you? And I list them all out, and they just check off the ones that are interesting to them. I ask them about music and books and movies, and are they gamers and things like that. And for each sort of set of things they can check off, like music, I'll say, do you like this kind of music, that, the other, or something different, or no music? And they check it off. And then after they check off a group, I have a line that they can fill in, and I ask them to give us some details about something that they checked off. So then they just provide what they want, what they want us to know. I ask about diet. They have an interesting diet. Do they have pets? How do they feel about animals? All kinds of things. And then I use that Google form and I have the form make a spreadsheet. And for another daily assignment, I tell them to go on the spreadsheet and find 4 students that they have things in common with. So, and I also answer this form. So I'm telling them what kinds of music I like as well, and books and all of this stuff. And then for their assignment, they list at least 4 names and what it is that they have in common with those 4 people. So this helps them to, hopefully they'll kind of paw through a lot of different things and start identifying which students in the class they have things in common with. Then the next day, I look at those results on the Google responses, and they have pie charts and things, and I can identify which areas in general are of interest to this particular class. So I might see, for instance, we have a group of them who are gamers, and we have a group of them who like Turkish TV shows, series, or whatever it is, whatever groups I kind of identify. The next day, then, I set up breakout groups and I rename the group. Instead of group 1, one of them will be gamers. Another group 2, I'll rename as Turkish TV series or something like that. Whatever I discovered from the Google responses, Google form responses. And then I put them into those, I just randomly put them into those groups, but I allow them to switch groups, and I tell them that they can switch into any group they want. And it's a mingle activity. Of course, I ask them to speak English when they're mingling. I know they probably won't, but this is a community developing activity, and it's really important because it'll help them to enjoy the class. And that helps with everything else. They'll learn more that way. I start the day with a whiteboard, and sometimes I'm asking things like, what are you grateful for? I'll point out that even if you're feeling depressed and life is really difficult right now, and even if bad things have happened, we can always be grateful. And I give them examples of the many, many, many things I'm grateful for. What do you like about yourself? Get specific about what kinds of TV shows you like, what kinds of books you like. What's one important thing that you learned in 2020 or that you learned in the last 6 months? What's the best thing you've acquired recently? I tell them what acquired means. What cartoon character would you hang out with? And you can see I've got some good artists in this particular class. What's the best advice you've ever been given? If you had 25 hours in a day, what would you do with the extra hour? If you could take a magic pill, what would it do? Would it make you fly, or what would it do? And this start to the day gets them thinking, it gets them sharing, it gets them learning about each other. I'm teaching English, so they're also practicing English. They don't even realize that. They're picking up on each other's English as well. And so you get the idea. So as you know, breakout groups are great for collaboration, right? And I encourage them to take advantage of each other's knowledge. And if they don't understand something, maybe someone else in the group will, and I encourage them to help each other. So I also take screenshots of the book. We have a digital version of the book. And sometimes they'll do watch a video, for example, and then they have a page and a half of exercises to do that relate. And they might be things like fill in the blank, or they might be more thought-provoking types of exercises. So one thing I've learned is that if I take a PDF of it and I put it in the breakout group. So it shows on their screen. It helps them all to focus on the task. But it doesn't work as well if I take a picture of the whole page. So I take pictures of just part of the page. If there's a whole page, I'll take just like 1/3 at a time, just 1 or 2 exercises usually, because it shows up better on their screen. Otherwise, if I do a whole page, when they go to write, it'll be like little tiny writing, and they have to use their view controls to make it bigger, and they forget to do that, and it's frustrating. Well, if you just do 1/3 of a page, then it works out, and it's not tiny writing, and they can read it. Sometimes when they have to do more creative things, like come up with something on their own, produce some language, then I'll have them take a screenshot of the page, or I'll go into the group and I'll take a screenshot. And then back in the main room, I'll compare, the 5 groups. Say, oh, well, this group came up with this and this group came up with that, So that's another thing that I do that works really well. By the way, if you don't know how to take a screenshot of just a small portion of a page, on Windows, you can do that with the Windows key, Shift and S. And on Mac, it's Command Shift 4. And then you just draw a square around what you want and it'll save where you want. And on Mac, you can easily make that a PDF. The PDFs work out better than the images in breakout groups on Blackboard. They both work, but the PDF's better. So on Mac, you can just click on the file name, double tap or right click on the file name, go to Quick Actions and create PDF. And it's very quick. It just immediately makes that file into a PDF and saves the PDF in the same location. So then you have both image and PDF. Okay. So how do I set these groups up with all these PDFs and stuff? Well, in the orientation section, beginning of the class, part of the orientation is I have them watch a video, and the video shows them how to use all the tools, and I have it both in English and Arabic, and I'll share it in the email that I'm sending this video with, along with the Google Forms. I'll share those. But anyway, they know, after watching that video, they know how to share content themselves. So when I load up the breakout groups with maybe 3 different docs, then somebody in the group is able to go to share content, find the next document, the next exercise, and share it for the group in their breakout. Okay, so while they're watching the video, what I do is I record the video myself, and I give them a link, and I'll show you how to do that. It's really easy because on Blackboard, it doesn't stream well. So while they are off watching the video, for example, or on a break, I'll do a break first. And then when they come back, then we do the breakout group. So either way, when they're busy doing something else, I'll be making the breakout groups and loading up those PDFs. So maybe it'll be 3 PDFs in each group, and it takes a few minutes. It's not too bad. And then I will put them into the groups. Okay. So then they just share the PDFs themselves. And of course, I move into the groups in and out and check with them and all of that. And I use the Everyone chat as a communication tool so that I can chat with all of them and they can chat with me regardless of which group they're in. So I've already done a workshop on Flipgrid, so I won't go into too much detail about it. But there are a couple things I've learned. So one of them is about the videos. Flipgrid has something called Shorts, and it allows you to easily record the content on your screen. So our book comes with beautiful videos. However, even though your internet might be super fast, and some of your students have super fast internet, the video will not stream well to them on Collaborate Ultra. It might be just a little bit hesitant, a little bit awkward, or it might be like really, it might be really jerky movements and bad sound quality. And they don't really complain about it much. They might tell you everything's fine, because they don't want to admit that their internet, they think it's their internet or whatever. But actually, it's Collaborate Ultra. So I promise you, even though you think it's okay, it's really not. So what I do is I record just one time on Flipgrid Shorts, and then I give them the link, and then they go off and on their own device, they watch the video. I give them the page number for the transcript. I say, watch it twice. The second time, reading along at the same time. And, they can watch it 3 times if they want or whatever. And then I'm doing the breakout groups at the same time while they're busy doing that. And then to protect copyright, you can then take it down from Flipgrid and save it, and next time you have a class and you need that video, you just upload it wherever you want, back to Flipgrid if you like, and share the new link. Here's an example from one of my classes, and it shows some of the Flipgrid topics I made. And you can see, the little gifts that I have there, which make it kind of cute and engaging. Oh yeah, I also use Flipgrid to have them introduce themselves. So it's another way that they build community. So here's an example of that. They're giving an introduction to themselves and telling us something that they think we should know about them. Okay, here is an example of a discussion topic that I took from the book. And the Flipgrid response is quite similar or maybe identical almost to the discussion topic. And I choose those because the writing exam comes from one of the discussion topics in the book. So this forces them to really think about it carefully, because they're more careful since they're recording these responses and their classmates can listen. And you can see here, for example, there were 214 views and there's 30 students in the class. So that's quite a bit. So they're all watching each other. So this is just more practice for them, getting more exposure to ideas about the discussion topic, and they're listening to English. So you can see, for example, that the first student here, who probably is one of the stronger students, which is why she was first. Well, actually, this is the last one now that I think about it. She had 24 views. And so, that's pretty good. For example, I use Flipgrid to help them practice their speaking presentation. And I don't have them do the whole presentation, but just the introduction, because just practicing that really helps, gets them off to a good start. Okay, on to writing skills. I love using the whiteboard because it's anonymous for writing skills. It's awesome. It's much better than face-to-face. I was using Google Docs, well, any doc, face-to-face, and then I would have them dictate to me and type it out on the screen for all to see. But this is better because it's anonymous. So I get all of them participating at the same time. And then after we create something on the whiteboard and I get to, correct them live in front of the whole class and everything, then I take a screenshot of the corrected, thing that they produced, and I save it in the folder on Blackboard. So then they end up with all these great writing examples that they themselves made, which then helps them with their own writing. So this one is critical thinking and preparing to write. So you can see they were doing problem, solution, results. So they're all contributing to this at the same time, writing in different sections, depending on what section they have something to contribute to. Okay, this one is a balanced opinion essay, so they're brainstorming for that. Here's another balanced opinion essay. This one is the introduction. So I've got it, it's kind of hard to tell, but I have it divided into 3 sections. So first they brainstormed some rhetorical questions they could use, and then some background details that they could put. And then the last part was their thesis statement. And then, of course, they make mistakes, right? And so it provides me with these wonderful teachable moments because they all make the same kinds of mistakes, but nobody knows who made the mistake. So, it's really awesome that way. And then I correct it, take a screenshot, save it for them so they can review it themselves later. Then here are the body paragraphs. Some, practicing how to summarize the points that they made and give their own opinion, make a prediction, whatever. Okay, so for my own summary, why do I love teaching online? Because I can develop rapport and community, and I can have lots of positivity and lots of smiling in the class and lots of sharing. I can get them, I can elicit thoughtful speech with Flipgrid. I can push nice, clear, clean videos and images. I share with them images that enhance their reading texts sometimes. And then that awesome whiteboard with the anonymous, where they can contribute anonymously. So all of these things are working for me, and I hope that you found some tips that'll work for you. So thank you so much for listening. Have an awesome day.